Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason. Speaking to here in my basement in the great state of Kansas. Yes, I'm finally getting to an artist I've been kind of dreading having to do, but I made a promise last year that if the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, that I would do a deep dive on Taylor Swift. Obviously, there's a connection there because I'm a big Chiefs fan, and tomorrow we're going to go for our third Super Bowl in a row, which is absolutely incredible. I'm doing this on Saturday, putting out today before the Super Bowl, because I said I was going to do a deep dive on her, and then I went and I listened to her albums, but just kind of put it off because the truth is I really don't like Taylor Swift. As a person, I think she's a terrible person. She's super woke liberal. I really don't like that. And she so voices her political opinions so much that I just don't like people that do that voice their political opinions all the time. And so she's a person I've really not liked for a while. So it's not someone I really want to listen to or talk about. But like I said, I made a promise. I said before the Chiefs game last year at the Super Bowl, I said, if Chiefs win, I will do a deep dive on Taylor Swift. So they won, so I have to fulfill my promise. And so this is my deep dive, kind of reluctant deep dive on Taylor Swift. So hopefully enjoy. I do have some positive things to say about her music and all that. Mostly my negatives is her as a person. But anyways, here is my deep dive on Taylor Swift. All right, Taylor Swift, born in 1989 in the state of Pennsylvania. At 13, she was given an artist developmental deal, and her whole family moved to Nashville. So by the time she was 13, obviously playing guitar, singing, probably at coffee shops and stuff like that, and had enough talent, learned to play guitar and started writing her own songs. But man, I'll say this about Taylor Swift. At age 13, she was already showing enough talent that she got a record or started getting a deal, a developmental deal, and all that. So, good on her having to be able to do that at such a young age. That's pretty impressive. And as we're going to see, she did a lot of impressive things at a very early age. And I'll give a lot of credit to her for that. Now, why she got that development deal, I don't know. I don't feel like she has the greatest voice. I don't feel like she's a great songwriter. Of course, she's only 13, so obviously she's not going to be a great songwriter at 13. But, and she's a pretty blonde, but country music is full of pretty blondes. So what exactly stood out, I don't know. But something evidently stood out. They signed her on to this developmental deal and started to kind of, pave her way to making an album and starting her career in country music. Again, such a young age, pretty incredible that they've discovered her at this young age and saw some talent in her, having no idea she'd become like one of the biggest superstars of all time. So at age 14, she became the youngest artist signed by Sony/ATV Tree Music Publishing. So she got signed, it said the youngest. So, like I said, incredible that young got signed on. But she was not with them very long, and she ended up leaving Sony. And she ended up signing with a new record label called Big Machine Records. So she was kind of one of the first to sign on with this new record company, kind of come when they're big, developing artists on there. And through that, she was able to put out her first album, her debut album, which is just called Taylor Swift, in 2006. And she was only 15. So, wow, that's pretty incredible. 15 years old. Not very many people, nobody it seems like gets to get that kind of success at that early of an age. So again, I don't know what it is about her. She had the right look, the right voice. She probably was pretty ambitious. Maybe she's a really hard worker. She's good with people. Something got her into the door. And once she got in the door, she just skyrocketed. Bigger than any artist I've probably ever seen in my life. So her first album, Taylor Swift, is definitely, again, she was first started out in country music. This is definitely a very country music album. It peaked at number 5 in the country music chart, so it did very well for a first time album and for being so young. Pretty incredible. Our Song and Should Have Said No were number 1 in the country charts, so she had 2 songs that were big on the country charts. And then her song that really I first got to know Taylor Swift was a song called Teardrops on My Guitar, which went number 13 in the Billboard 100. So she had 2 songs, did very well, number 1s in the country charts. Then she had a song that did well in the Billboards. And that really, to me, is what got her noticed and got her name recognition out there. Like, oh, who's this new up-and-coming starter? And I think what's so impressive is that she was 15 and she was already, getting this kind of success. And I remember seeing her when she was like 15, after she made this album. Never heard of her before. I was watching some award show and they introduced, oh, here's this new country music star, and she's only 15, named Taylor Swift, and she's singing this new hit song, Teardrops on My Guitar. And here comes Taylor Swift, and yeah, she sings Teardrops on My Guitar. And I remember seeing that performance on whatever award show it was, I guess back in 2006. And I remember just going, man, I'm just so impressed that someone 15 years old was able to write a song like that. Because I thought it was actually a really good, a good written song for someone that age. And I like the whole name of the song, Teardrops on My Guitar. You're crying over, a breakup or something like that, and you're playing your guitar and teardrops. Yeah, it's a really nice written song for that age. Very, fairly catchy. Definitely the best song on that album. Me personally, not a big fan of that album because it's very country and I'm not a country fan. So it's actually not, I'll get into my rankings, but it's definitely towards the bottom of my list of Taylor Swift albums. And it's just, it's her first album. She's young. She's still trying to develop her sound, I think, and how to write really good, catchy pop songs. Again, this is a country album, so she's not writing pop songs yet. But Teardrops on My Guitar is not a bad start for her to kind of go that route. But yeah, she ended up winning a Grammy for Best New Artist for that, age 15 again. Already winning a Grammy at age 15. Absolutely incredible. Yeah, so that was really good debut for her. Did very well. Really solidified her as a future star in country music. Lest we know she's going to be like the big star of all time. But she ended up coming with her second album in 2008, just a couple years afterwards. And this album was called Fearless. And wow, this was a huge album. I mean, again, second album, I guess she's probably now like 17. And this is like her second album, and it's already like one of the biggest albums. I mean, I won't say all time, but biggest album of that year. It went number 1 in the U.S. It was the best-selling album of 2009 in the U.S. Like I said, it was the best-selling album. Her only second album, age 17, she has the best-selling album. It was huge, and I remember this coming out and had a lot of huge songs on it. And I knew mostly of this stuff because I had a younger sister who was 10 years younger than me, and she was a big Taylor Swift fan. I guess for me, like, listening to this kind of music, and I was an adult at that time, so it is hard when you're listening to a teenager writing songs and singing songs, and it just feels very immature style songs, about chasing boys and all this, it's obviously written from a teenager's point of view, written for teenagers. And if you're not a teenager, I think you listen to that kind of music and go, it's not for me. Maybe when I was a teenager, I could kind of relate, but now as an adult, it's like, I don't really relate to this music at all. And it just, yeah, I don't know how to say it. It's just not mature enough for me personally. So I can't say I was like a big fan of the music that was coming out, but there's no denying that she was developing these really, again, she was still a country artist, but you can see even from the second album that she definitely had this pop flavor to her, and she knew how to write. Like I said, I don't think she's a great songwriter necessarily, but she already developed at a young age how to write a catchy pop song that people will love and will be hits, and she knew how to write a good catchy pop record that people will buy. So I give her all the credit. She knew how to write catchy pop songs, and it did very well for her. The big song I remember from this album really was Love Story. I remember Love Story being a big thing. I remember I bought this, I used to play Guitar Hero and like Rock Band all the time on my Nintendo Wii. And I got this Rock Band game, and it had a bunch of Taylor Swift songs on it. It was like more of a, I forget what it's called. It was like, it had more pop songs on it than the normal Rock Band or Guitar Hero usually had, you know, all these classic rock songs. But this one had pop songs, and I remember it had Love Story on it. I remember it had like Pictures to Burn, which is off her first album. So I kind of learned a little bit about Taylor Swift through that Rock Band game that I played with my sister. Again, I bought it because my younger sister was a big Taylor Swift fan, so we were playing Guitar Hero together and stuff, and it was kind of fun to play together. But yeah, Love Story I remember was the one that was my sister really loved, you know, and it has this whole, you know, Romeo and Juliet, and again, it just felt a little childish a little bit to me, but yeah, I can get why it was a big song. The song that really I thought was the best song on the album and really was biggest hit was "You Belong with Me" or "You Belong to Me." Man, that was a catchy pop song. I still think it's one of her best songs, actually. And that's one that I can actually get onto. I think, yeah, just that "You belong to me, you belong." Oh, man. Yeah, it's super catchy, fun to sing along to. I think definitely one of her best songs. Weird Al Yankovic even did a good parody of it about the paparazzi, which was actually a fun song as well. Also, 15, actually, pretty good song on the album too. So. That one wasn't too bad. I'm looking at my notes here. For Fearless, yeah. Those are the three best songs probably on the album for me. And like I said, Love Story was pretty huge on the radio, but You Belong With Me, 15, they're all really huge hits on the radio. And Billboard named their 2009 Artist of the Year. So I said, God, that's pretty impressive. Second album, it's already that big. And not only that, it ended up winning her first Grammy for Album of the Year. I mean, have we ever had someone that young win Album of the Year? That is crazy that she won Album of the Year on her second album, Fearless, and how big of an album that album was. And she already, at that age, was proving herself to be one of the great pop artists of her generation. Also won Best Country Album, of course. Again, I feel like she's going more in a pop, but I guess she's still considered a country artist at this time. She also won Best Country Song for White Horse and Best Female Country Singer. So yeah, won a bunch of Grammys, and also the Country Music Award Show, the big one for country music. She won Album and Entertainer of the Year, and she was the youngest to do so. This is in 2009, so the next year. So I guess it says she's 19 at this point. So I guess she was about 18 when Fearless came out. But yeah, so at age 19, she's already winning Album of the Year, Grammys, Entertainer of the Year, and Country Music Awards. Yeah, 19, that's incredible. 2 albums in, she's already solidified as one of the great pop artists, country pop artists of her time. But she doesn't stop there. She keeps going bigger and bigger. Her third album, Speak Now, comes out in 2010, and it goes number 7 in the Billboards. Or number 1, sorry, 7. The one, I get mixed up. Number 1, sorry. I was like, that's not right. Yeah, it went number 1 in the Billboard. So, in fact, every album, I think, up till this point on is gonna be number 1 when it comes out. I mean, her albums just are always huge. They always sell very well. She developed this very good, one of the best fan base. I say best is meaning one of the biggest fan bases of all time that are very loyal to her. And every time she puts an album, the Swifties that they call them, just, man, gobble up these albums, and they always do very well. Though I've heard from other people, Swifties gets a bad name, that Swiftie fans are not very good people. Like, they are, if you don't like Taylor Swift, they really go after you, I guess. I don't know. I don't really talk to Swifties or people that are big fans of Taylor Swift, so I don't know all about the fan base. But I've heard they're kind of, you know, turn off to a lot of people. Anyways, but yeah, so Speak Now, another big album for her. It becomes the fastest selling digital album by a female artist. So again, just every album she's like breaking new ground. Her song Mine went number 3 on the charts, and the big one to me was Mean, was a big radio hit, and also won a Grammy for Best Country Song. Mean did. And Why Do You Have to Be So Mean? Yeah, I like that song. It's another, again, she's good at writing catchy pop songs and country with a little bit of country. I guess it's country with some pop in it at this point. She's still considered country at this moment. For me, actually, I think it's one of her best albums. Like I said, Mine is really good. Mean. The Story of Us is my favorite song on the album. I think that's a really good song. Never Grow Up, and Last Kiss. So there's actually a lot of good songs on here. Like I said, she's really developing into knowing how to write really good, catchy pop music. And I enjoy catchy pop music, so actually listening to some of these albums, I'm like, yeah, there's some good stuff here. I'm not a total hater on the songs and her, her ability to write these pop songs at all. And at this point, she didn't get. I said I wasn't a big Swift fan. Like I never bought any of her music. Didn't really listen to music, for any reason except for when it comes on the radio. So I was like never a Swift fan, but I, was admired that she was doing so well at such a young age. Like I said, I think at this point felt like she was still kind of, and she's 19 at this point, but I still kind of felt like her music was just not mature enough for me. I guess I still felt that way. Maybe I always felt that way because I saw her when she was, like 15 when she came out. And so she's always going to be that young teenager to me. Even now at 35 years old, I always still think of her as this young teenager. Anyways, but yeah. So yeah, another huge album for her. Then a fourth album, another huge album for her called Red. And this came out in 2012. Again, went number one. Her single, We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, was her first song to go number one in the charts. And yeah, that's definitely one of her big radio songs. That was, as people say, it was overplayed. I'd probably say that was one of her most overplayed songs. But I actually like it. It's kind of silly. It's about, again, a lot of her songs I felt like was always about breakup. I feel like she was always breaking up with somebody. I'm like, geez, what's going on, Taylor? Why are you having such trouble with your relationships? Why do you have all these bad breakups? Because she seems to, every time she had a breakup, she wrote it in a song. And I think she got this reputation at this point of like, if you're going to date Taylor Swift, she'll probably write a song about you. And it's going to be negative. So it's like, why do you want to date Taylor Swift? You're just going to have a really bad song written about you. And this seems to be like one of those. I think they think it maybe was written by Harry Styles. I think she broke up with him just before this or around this time. And so, but yeah, it's again, we are never, ever, ever getting back together. Yeah, it's super catchy. It's a fun song. I don't mind it personally. I can see some people thinking it's, it's a little silly, but again, she knows how to write good pop songs. This had a little bit of like almost this middle part where she talks and everything, and yeah, it was an interesting song. She also had a big hit with "I Knew You Were Trouble." That was a top 5 hit as well for her. That was another big radio one. I remember. I knew you were trouble when you walked in. Bum, bum, bum. It is, again, very catchy. Red and Begin Again was nominated for 3 Grammys. She won Entertainer of the Year again in 2014. I think like the first time a female or something has won like Entertainer of the Year twice or something. I don't know. She like, again, just incredible. Like she's winning every single award. Every album she's coming out with at this point, it feels like it's always winning Grammys, always getting nominated. It seems like every album got nominated for Album of the Year. She's just red hot. I mean, at this point in her career, in 2012, I mean, she could do no wrong. Like every album was just like the biggest album of the year, and she had just multiple singles that were huge hits on the radio. It's like you couldn't turn the radio on without hearing a Taylor Swift song. And I feel like with Red, she's still considered a country star, I guess, at this point. But I really feel like with Red, man, I'm kind of surprised. She really feels like she's becoming a pop artist. And I often wonder, like, what happened there? Why did she start out as a country artist and then change and become a pop artist? To today, if you hear her albums today, there's no country in them at all. Like, she totally went away from the country aspect of her career, which is weird because that's what she got her career started on, was country music and being this country music darling. And so it makes me wonder, like, was she really a country music person, or was she a pop artist pretending to be country just to get in? Maybe it was easier to get a foot in the door, get into country somehow, got her in, and then once she got popular, she just changed to being a pop artist, not country anymore. Or was she a country artist, but she found that she could sell more records if she did pop, so she changed from country to pop to sell more records? Like, I'm like, is she a sellout? I don't know. Or is she really a country star that just changed her mind on what kind of music she wanted to play? As she got older, matured more, she just started liking pop music more, and so that's where she went. I don't know. I kind of wonder, what's the deal? Is she a country artist? Is she a pop artist? I mean, you can say she's a combination of both, but right now, there's no country in her at all. at least Shania Twain, like, even though Shania Twain had some pop in her, she still had country, still had a country sound to her. I don't think she ever went away from country. Carrie Underwood, same way. Carrie Underwood has, pop songs that are on pop radio, but I never feel like she went away from country. Again, I haven't listened to her albums, but from what I understand, she's always been a country artist. She never shied away from being country. She's always, but Taylor Swift, she's one that's like, wow, why was she country? Now she's not. It's kind of baffling. And I wonder what the country music, people think about her. And I'm sure if I talked to a real country, aficionado or whatever, that they would say, oh, she was never country to begin with, maybe. I wonder if that's going to be a take on from a country music perspective. Or do country people feel like she turned her back on the country music genre and she's a traitor? And I wonder if they hate her because of that. I have to wonder. Or do they still embrace her even though she's not a country artist anymore? And they still think, oh, she started out in country, she's still country. I don't know. I wonder. So it's like one of those things like, again, I don't know. She has a huge fandom, so somebody's buying her records. People are going to her concerts. Her concerts are just the biggest selling concerts of all time. And I mean, I'm sure they're mostly just teenage girls going to this stuff and buying her records, but I don't know, just a lot of questions there. I like I said, I don't like her, so I think she's just a big sellout, maybe. I don't know. And she found her niche and just kept doing it, and she's gonna do it as long as she keeps selling albums, but yeah, Red. Saying that, Red is actually a really good album. I'm being very negative on her, but I'll say a positive. It's a really good pop album. It's the best, I think, her best pop album. Again, this is still kind of country music genre, or this is when she's still in her country music phase, I think. She's still being recognized as a country music star, but to me, she's really much more of a pop star in this album. And this album really surprised me. It's a double album. And I wasn't expecting much, except, like I said, she had some of the big hits on the radio. But yeah, when I listened to it, I was like, wow, this is actually really good pop music. This is like a perfect pop album almost. I give it a very high score, as you'll see. But yeah, a lot of good songs on here. The very first song, State of Grace, I think is maybe her best song. Like, I haven't done her top 10 favorite songs yet, but when I do, State of Grace might be my favorite Taylor Swift song. It really surprised me when I first song on that album. I was like, wow, this is really good stuff. Like I said, I think she's starting to mature a little more at this point. I think her songwriting's starting to get better. As musicians, I don't know, everything's just starting to get better. The way the production is getting better. I think as she's getting older, she's just getting a little bit better, and that's why I like this album, Red, a lot more. She's still very young at this point, like in her 20s. But yeah, State of Grace is great. Red was great. 22, really good song. Again, We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, I like. Stay, Stay, Stay was good. Everything Has Changed. And The Last Time. I mean, like I said, it's a double album. There are tons of great songs on this album. Definitely one I recommend. Anybody who doesn't like Taylor Swift, check this album out. It's, I think, one of her best. I think it's her best album, to be honest. And one that even someone like me who doesn't like country music, or someone like me who doesn't like Taylor Swift, can actually enjoy. But yeah. So again, winning tons of Grammys. It's crazy that didn't win Album of the Year or something like that. That's, like I said, that deserved it more than Fearless even for me. But like I said, she's just red hot at this moment. And then her fifth album, again, like I said, this is such an incredible run of albums for her. From Fearless, Speak Now, Red, and then 1989 coming out in 2014, of course, the year that she was born. Yeah, one of the most incredible runs of albums I think I've ever seen anybody have. Like I said, these are all the biggest albums of the years, all number ones, are all winning a bunch of Grammys. And yeah, this is to me at her peak, because I feel like after 1989, as a musician, or as a singer or whatever, her albums go way down. Like, this is like her last really good album, in my opinion. Her albums still do well, but for me, she really takes a deep dive after this album. So she was like just a rising star, and she's still a star, but for me, she's like a rising star, and she's starting to fall a little bit after this. But still, this is a really good album, 1989. It's one of my favorite albums from her, one of her biggest albums, for sure. And this was considered really her transition from country to pop. Like I said, I feel like Red was more of a pop album. I even think Fearless was more of a pop album to me, but This is definitely where I think people started to go, okay, she's not a country music star anymore. She's a pop star with 1989. And yeah, again, it's a really good pop album, I think. If you like pop music, it's really good. It's got some really good catchy stuff and some huge hits on it, including Shake It Off. Again, silly song, but actually I think I'm thinking about this song when I was thinking about We'd Never Ever Get Back Together. I get those two mixed up now because now I'm thinking Shake It Off is the one that's like a little more silly and she talks, a little bit towards the middle, which is a little weird. But yeah, I can't deny it. It's kind of a fun, catchy song. Shake it off. Again, she's not a great singer, not a great songwriter, but she writes fun music. And that was a huge hit all over the radio. Blank Space is actually a really good song, I thought. And it's probably actually one of her best written songs. I think it's actually written pretty well. It's very catchy, very well done overall. One of my favorite songs from her, actually, Blank Space. And then Bad Blood is another big hit from her on the radio. It's been used a lot. I think all three songs reached #1. This is what I'm reading in my notes here. So yeah, like 3 #1 hits on this album. Wildest Dreams was also a huge radio hit, and that's actually my favorite song on the album, and one of my favorite songs from her. Wildest Dreams is a really, really great song on this album. Like I said, it's a really good album. I'm surprised to say that. I don't like saying that, but it is. And then her tour was the highest grossing tour of the year. Again, this is where she's put on these, I don't know if it was her or somebody else, but she really started, like her and like Lady Gaga and like all these female artists. I mean, and maybe you look at Madonna made this before her, or I don't know, you maybe look at some other ones, but I always feel like, man, she put a lot of theatrics into her performances. If you ever see like footage for a concert, I've never been to a concert. I have seen the Eras Tour concert, video thing that's on Disney Plus. She does tons of costume changes, grand costume changes, bunch of dancers, big sets. It's just this huge performance. And that's why her concerts are so huge and why she's like the biggest artist every year. Her concerts are the biggest selling concerts of all time. I think I heard they're like super expensive too. So I would never go to a concert, but even if I could, I don't think I could afford it. Yeah, so big tour here. The Billboard, 100, whatever, named her Woman of the Year in 2014. She's the first artist to achieve it twice. So I guess this is the one that I was thinking of. The Billboard named her artist Woman of the Year twice. I guess it was the first time that's happened. And at the Grammy, she won her second album of the year. And she's 25 years old. So to make you more depressed, being 41, going, wow, she did so much, half my age, it feels like, I mean, she's not half my age right now, but at that point she was. But yeah, at that point she's winning 2 Grammys. That's very unheard of. It's very hard for any artist to get one album of the year. There's so many great artists that never win album of the year, like Paul McCartney. You can go down a list. Led Zeppelin, The Who, Eagles, whatever. Some of the greatest artists of all time never win album of the year, and Taylor Swift did us twice. It's what makes me kind of mad, but that's just how incredible her popularity is, that she was able to win it twice. And to me, 1989 is a much better album than Fearless. It definitely deserves it more. If there was one album that deserved it, it was either 1989 or Red. I think the only 2 albums that, to me, deserve maybe an album of the year for her, but still. She's won so many Grammys, album of the year, 25 years old, Woman of the Year twice, Country Music Award Entertainer like twice. It's incredible. This is, to me, is where, yeah, she starts going downhill, because at this point she decided to become very political, and she's, of course, very liberal, as again, country music stars are very conservative mostly. Pop stars, rock stars are very liberal. Rap stars, I think, most of the entertainment industry is very liberal. That's because they hang out with liberal people and they do liberal things, and that's just the way they are. They're just godless people. Anyways, that's my opinion. And of the Hollywood types and entertainers and all that. So she decided to, at this point, I was fine with Taylor Swift. I had no problem with Taylor Swift. Again, I wasn't like the biggest fan of Taylor Swift, but I was like, she's fine, she hasn't, I remember at the time thinking, at least she hasn't gotten too super slutty, like, Britney Spears and, all these other artists, usually Miley Cyrus, these female stars, they start off all innocent, Disney and whatever, and then once they get to adulthood and they get out of that mold, they become super slutty. That's just kind of the way female artists always go. And I always thought, well, at least she didn't do that. At least she hasn't gone over the board, or like she hasn't, had any scandals. She hasn't had drug addiction or alcoholism or whatever. She hasn't come out with anything. But then at this point, of course, we're getting to the big election with Trump and Clinton. And this is where she decides to, I'm going to come out this very liberal feminist, and my music is going to portray this liberal feminism. And I'm going to go out there and be very vocal and, anger half my audience, which doesn't make any sense. Why do you want to turn off half your audience? Why do you want to lose, it's like, if she didn't come out liberal, I might buy an album from her. Because she come out this super liberal, I'm like, I'll never buy an album from her. Anyway, so to me, it's just ruined her reputation, which is funny because her 6th album's called Reputation, which to me, she has a terrible reputation, in my opinion. But this came out in 2017. It was the #1 album, like I said. It's one of my least favorite albums from her. Again, it's still that pop style, but to me, she started to get very liberal and woke and all that, and I was totally turned off by her at this point. She got a Grammy nominated for Best Pop Vocal Album. And again, her tour was the highest grossing tour in North America. No surprise there. I'll just jump to her 7th album. Her 7th album, Lover, came out in 2019. Also went #1 and was the best-selling album in the U.S. And again, it has one of the most political songs she's ever done. My least favorite song from her, The Man. If you don't know, and she did this really terrible music video where it portrayed men as being really terrible people. It was a very anti-man song. And I'm a man, so it's like, when she came, I would say Reputation I didn't pay that much attention to, but definitely when she came out with Lover, that's when I was like, I really do not like Taylor Swift because of her politics and just being anti-man. Like, what's with that? What's wrong with men? We're not all bad. I'm not a bad guy, so definitely this is where I started hating Taylor Swift when this album came out, and where I kind of told myself I was never going to listen to her music. Here I am listening to her music reluctantly to do this video. But yeah, listen to that, and The Man is like, screw you, that's my feeling on her and that album and her career. And at that point, I was like, I don't like Taylor Swift at all. I want nothing to do with her. Whatever. Unfortunately, she came back into my life because of the Chiefs, which we'll get to. But anyways, in 2020, she came out with 2 albums. Of course, this was during COVID. So, this was a time where artists were at home and they had nothing to do, I guess, but come out with, new albums. McCartney came out with his last album, McCartney 3, during this time. Just sitting at home, like nothing to do, but let's write some songs. But she ends up coming out with 2 albums during the COVID period. First one's called Folklore. Second one's called Evermore. So that's her 8th and 9th album. The big one is Folklore, her 8th album. It was the best-selling album of 2020. It also won Grammy Album of the Year, getting her a 3rd Grammy Album of the Year, which is so mind-boggling because I don't think it's that good of an album. I think Illicit Affairs is her best song on there. Invisible String, August are some good songs. There's like a couple good songs on there. But this is where her music is starting to change a little bit for me, for the worse. She went from being a country music artist to writing catchy pop songs that were fun to these really boring, kind of slow, meandering songs that seem very dreary and dark and depressing. I don't know. It's just like her music style just totally changed from being upbeat and poppy to just slow and depressing. I don't know. And I have to think it's because she's getting older, she's getting more mature, and she's become very liberal. And I always say, like, there's always this whole thing, go woke, go broke. And it seems to be, again, she didn't go broke. That's an analogy. Obviously, her albums are doing very well, and being liberal hasn't hurt her at all, evidently, just for people like me. But for me, yeah, I just totally did not like her music. Not only did I not like her, but her music also got just worse at this point. I don't know what the deal was, what happened here, but she just became a depressed individual because again, all this point, her reputation at this point was that she kept going from guy to guy. It's just one breakup after one breakup. All these famous people, like, you know, she had Taylor Lautner and Harry Styles and Jake Gyllenhaal, John Mayer, you know, a Kennedy kid. It's just one failed relationship after another, and we all started going like, okay, what's wrong with you? Why are you having you're this really good-looking, rich, you know, celebrity, one of the big celebrities in the world, and you can't keep a guy. Like, what is wrong with you, Taylor? That's what we all kind of start saying. You know, and it's like, okay, I understand you're young, you're hot, you're sowing your seeds, I guess, or whatever they call it. You can get any guy you want, you know, when you're in your 20s and all this, and you don't want to settle down, whatever. But then once you get in your 30s and you're still doing this, it's like you're just a sad woman. You know, you're just sad cat woman. Why have you not gotten married and had any kind of settling down? Most people do at this point, but like you haven't, Taylor. What's wrong with you? You know, I guess, and her music kind of reflects that, a sad woman she is. Anyways, it's very terrible music. And I feel that way starting with Folklore and Evermore and everything afterwards, just really boring, just not great music. Yeah, so her next album, 10th album, Midnights, comes in 2022. And this is more electro pop and synth pop sound elements is what I'm hearing. Also a little bit of hip hop, R&B, and electronica. So kind of like all the music I don't like, she put in this album. And she had a #1 single with Anti-Hero, which I think is the best song on the album. Again, I don't think it's a very good album. I think it's a very boring sounding album. I think she's a very boring sounding person right now as far as a singer. I didn't get this album at all. But guess what? It won Grammy Album of the Year and Best Pop Album. And she became the first person ever to win 4 Album of the Years at the Grammys. This is absolutely insane that she won 4 Album of the Years. She is not deserving of 4 Grammy Album of the Years. Midnight is not that good of an album. Folklore is not that good an album. I'll give you Fearless 1989. Fine, you can win 2. But those last 2 are just not... Again, music is terrible right now, maybe. So maybe I should just say her music is terrible, but music is just terrible now. So I guess it makes sense in that sense that there's just no good music. So might as well give it to Taylor Swift, you know. But I hope you enjoyed. I know I bash on her a lot, but I hope hopefully, unless you're a Taylor Swift fan, you might not like this video. But besides that, I hope you enjoyed me going through my thoughts on Taylor Swift before the Super Bowl. And hopefully we can win another one. And Taylor Swift will be out there, you know, celebrating. And I'll say, good for you, Taylor Swift, you know, rooting for the right team, my Kansas City Chiefs. So I give you that credit. And yeah, besides that, I'll do a top 10 songs at some point. I'll come up with my top 10. And hopefully, yeah, I don't know what to say, but thanks for watching this video. Thank you for liking it. And good luck to the Chiefs tomorrow. Hope you win another Super Bowl. I know a lot of people don't want that, but as a Chiefs fan, I would love to see a three-peat. That would be great. I'll be with my parents watching the game tomorrow. So I have to drive over there. So wish me a safe trip to my parents today. And besides that, everybody have a great weekend. Hope you enjoy Super Bowl.